Jim, where does this race stand now post-debate?
Well, any way you slice it, Harris went out and did exactly what she wanted to do. The national polls show a nice little pop, probably around 4 or 5 percentage point lead. What would worry me if I were on her campaign is that Michigan's had a couple of polls in the last couple of days. Trump by 1, tie, her by 1. The swing states still look pretty close, and you very rarely can find a poll that has one candidate or the other outside of the margin of error. The Walz pick seemed to be popular. Everybody raved about the Democratic convention. She did great. All this stuff is going right for her, but you're not seeing it generate a significant lead in the swing states, and so I think they'll be sweating all the way to election night.
Nia, there are some debates that shift the momentum of a campaign, like the first Kennedy-Nixon debate in 1960, and some that don't, like all three Clinton-Trump debates back in 2016. Where do you think this race stands right now, post-debate?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a dead heat. You know, it's going to come down to these 6 states. She's got to figure out what the easiest path to victory is. She has more paths than Joe Biden did, but it's still incredibly tight. It's a 50-50.
Well, wait, explain that to me. If according to the CNN Instant poll, she won 63% to 37%, and all the other polls were roughly the same, why hasn't it moved the needle?
I don't think debates typically move the needle, right? You mentioned the Kennedy-Nixon debate. That obviously did. The debate we saw between Biden and Trump obviously upended this entire race. But this is the way it usually works with debates. They sort of lock in what's already in place. And what was already in place was a very close race. And they're going to try over these next, what do we have, 7 weeks, 8 weeks or so.
7 weeks.
To go in places, like, for instance, Kamala Harris is in some of these rural places in Georgia and Pennsylvania to see if she can eat into some of the margins among Trump voters in those states.
Lulu, if this race is still up for grabs, what do Trump and Harris each need to do in the next 7+ weeks till Election Day?
Well, I think we need to see less of Trump, because the more people see of Trump, the less they seem to like him, the more incendiary things he says, and the more people are focused on his biggest liability now, which is his age. What has happened is the GOP and the Democrats have kind of flipped. Before, the Democrats had the problem with their candidate at the top of the ticket being unable to prosecute the case, and now it's the GOP that has a problem with their candidate being unable to prosecute the case.
So he should go to the basement like Biden in 2020?
I think we need to be seeing a little bit less of him, if indeed they really, because don't forget, when people sort of had the hazy, happy memory of Trump and not the chaotic Trump, the Trump that says things that have no basis in reality, talking about dogs, that people eating dogs rather, people seem to like him better.
And what about Harris?
So what Harris needs to do, I think, is people need to see her more, and in unscripted ways. She needs to be doing more press conferences. She needs to just have a more casual interaction with a wider variety of people.
Does Oprah count in that?
I mean, Oprah counts. They're trying to create events. That's what they're going to be doing now. That's their big tactic, having Oprah, trying to see if their big, splashy, friends with Beyonce and others are going to.
Let me pick up on this, because CNN is reporting that the Harris campaign is more focused on creating what they call moments than rolling out detailed policy. She has, as mentioned, an online conversation with Oprah next week, and they dream of a campaign concert with Taylor Swift. Reihan, first of all, do you think that's what Harris needs to do? More moments, less policy? And what about Trump?
I do think that Harris is being incredibly disciplined and careful. She's following a script. Her ad campaigns and what have you, these are doing exactly what Democratic political experts are advising her to do. Biden was a loose cannon. Trump is very much a loose cannon, but she has been sticking to the script.
Do you think that's the right script, though? Because a lot of people I hear say, I want to know more specifics of what she's going to do for the economy, what she's going to do on immigration.
Well, the problem is that her agenda is to the left of most of the electorate, and I think getting more specific about that could represent a risk. It would be smart of her to try to make a more explicit and clear break with the Biden presidency, but she's very conspicuously not done that in a variety of ways. Trump, in contrast, look, during the debate, Kamala Harris spent 70% of her time attacking Trump. Trump spent less than 30% of his time attacking Harris. Harris is acting like an underdog. Trump is not acting like an underdog. And what Trump needs to do is zero in not on 200 messages, not on every last thing someone says and then counterpunching. He needs to focus on his script and attack the incumbent administration and remind people that he is not the incumbent who is responsible for a very foul mood of the American public right now. She's in office.
And then there is the question of another debate. And at least this week, Trump was making it clear he's not interested.
When a prize fighter loses a fight, you've seen a lot of fights, right? The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. And that's what she said.
Nia, is Trump smart to say no more debates?
Yes, absolutely, because he was terrible. I mean, she emasculated him. She had him on the ropes for 90 minutes. I mean, some of it was attack, some of it was just triggering him with saying that his crowd sizes weren't so big and that people were leaving in the middle of the rallies. And so, no, I think he is smart to stay away from this because he doesn't want a really good moment for Harris in the closing weeks of this campaign in the way that she's had this week with this really, really stellar debate performance against him.
Do you agree that Trump should stay away from another debate? And pardon?
No, to paraphrase Ghostbusters, if you have the opportunity to speak before 60 million television viewers, probably another 7 million on streaming, you say yes. You take every opportunity you have to get your message out. You try preparing next time. You try having 2 or 3 bullet points you want to put for each one of them.
He can't prepare. He is incapable at the moment because of his age to actually prosecute the case. And so I think it's actually a terrible idea for him to do a round 2.
Well, all right.
Okay, the basement campaign, particularly when you're neck and neck, isn't going to do you any good. I guess the idea is that people are going to forget the traits about Trump that they don't like between now and Election Day. The only way to go out there is to go out, make the argument. Okay.
No, okay. I wasn't raising my
Do you think he can do that?
But let me
That's the
just
thing.
let me ask you this: What do you think of the chances? You know, he's saying nope, no more debates.
Okay.
What do you think of the chances?
No more debates.
He changes his mind,
Yeah.
and sometime in October ends up sharing a stage.
As we
with
all know, every Trump decision is written on an Etch-a-Sketch, and at any given moment, it can be shaken very vigorously, and you can end up with a different one. So, my guess is if the advisors look at him and say, look, you did not do yourself any good, you can go out there, and if you bother to remember 3 or 4 points on every topic, you can actually move the ball in the right direction. Then you should do it. But I think he walks around believing that he's going to win by a landslide, and he doesn't have to do anything else.
Hillary Clinton dominated her first debate with Donald Trump in 2016. This was a pretty solid, strong performance by Kamala Harris. It was not better than Hillary Clinton's performance in that first debate. And then Donald Trump fared better in the second and third debates. I think that Trump should give it another shot.